Hello and welcome to the Product Biz Podcast. My name is Monica Little and I'm your host. And today we have a special guest, Cody from Everbee. And we're going to be talking about how to use this tool called Everbee to grow your Etsy shop. So if you're an Etsy seller, then you already know that one of the hardest parts about selling on Etsy is knowing what products will actually sell well. Sometimes it might feel like you're blindly throwing a dart at the wall, hoping to hit that bullseye. And some small business owners see massive success on Etsy while others keep hitting their head against the wall. So what truly determines which category you fall into? How do you increase your odds of having a successful Etsy shop instead of a struggling Etsy shop? You might just find the answer you are looking for in today's episode with special guest Cody, the founder of Everbee. If you're struggling to get seen in the first place, or if you're struggling to get sales on Etsy, this tool is going to change the name of the game for you. Everbee is a powerful product research tool designed for Etsy sellers like you that gives you valuable data such as product analytics, shop analyzer, keyword research, and more, so Etsy sellers can make data-driven decisions to grow their Etsy business. Instead of throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping that something sticks, you're going to learn how to use this tool to confidently grow your Etsy shop. Now, a little bit about Cody before we bring him on board. He is a top 1% Etsy seller that's been in the e-commerce industry for over 5 years with over $330,000 in revenue on Etsy alone. He has successfully owned and operated 2 online companies selling on platforms like Etsy, Amazon, FBA, Walmart, and Shopify. He's the founder of Everbee.io and host of the Etsy Seller podcast. So let's dive in to learn about Cody, his background, Everbee, and how you can use this tool to grow your Etsy shop today. Welcome, Cody, to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm super excited to have you as a guest here today.
Monica, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. We did a fun episode on the Everbee Etsy Seller podcast. So I'm very grateful for your time and excited to share value with your audience as well.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be such a fun conversation because you are the creator of Everbee, which is an awesome tool for Etsy sellers, something that I've been playing around with and experimenting with and really seeing how it works. So I'm glad to have you here just to explain more for myself and the people listening how they can use this to help their Etsy shop to really get in front of the right people, right? So I definitely want to dive into that. But before we do, we'd love for you just to introduce yourself. Tell us about how you got to where you are today, and then we'll go from there.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for having me on. My name's Cody. I'm the founder and CEO of Everbee. We are the all-in-one business platform for Etsy sellers. So usually Etsy sellers come to Everbee if they're starting their business or they're running their business or they're trying to grow their business. So we're kind of like that suite of tools in order to help an aspiring or a growing Etsy entrepreneur to actually grow their business. So we're really, really passionate about helping business owners in general, e-commerce, specifically e-commerce sellers, and then more specifically the Etsy sellers, because those are my people. I mean, that's what I was, still do a little bit. My wife is an Etsy seller. My sisters, 3 of my sisters are Etsy sellers. My sister-in-law are Etsy sellers. Like, these are our people. And so really, really passionate about helping, these folks. So that's kind of what Everbee is. That's what Everbee does. How do we get here? Gosh, it's a big question, I guess. I started out as a kind of a real estate entrepreneur. I knew that when I went to corporate thinking that was like the thing to do. I was going to make $100,000 a year in salary and I was going to get my benefits paid for. And that was like the path for me. So I went down that path. So I went like the corporate path and pretty quickly realized like a year in that, I don't think I like this path. Picked up a couple books, Rich Dad Poor Dad being one of them, and kind of talked about financial freedom and all this stuff. For the first time I've ever heard those types of words, and I really liked the sound of them. I liked the way that made me feel. So then it was like I picked up another book, and pretty soon it was like, oh wow, like I really need a definite purpose. And then you start identifying your definite purpose in life, and it leads you down this path of pretty much chasing your definite purpose and then trying to pursue that thing. And ultimately, financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom are all kind of like intermixed with that definite purpose. So long story short, I'm sorry, continued to go down the corporate path because that was the best path forward as far as like financially, and ended up getting a very well paying career and working in tech, and still this financial freedom, this thing kind of was still there, and eventually led me to e-commerce. Real estate a little bit, and then shortly after e-commerce, and then Amazon FBA was my first stab at e-commerce. that was the thing to do. Did it, failed a few times, lost some money, but then eventually kind of like succeeded overall, I would say. And then that kind of led me to Shopify, and that led me to eBay, and then led me to Walmart.com, and then eventually led me to Etsy, which was like the last marketplace that I like settled on. And soon as after all that, finding Etsy at the very end was like, whoa, this was way easier than all the other ones, way cheaper to do it, like to start my business, and way simpler for me to just start. And ever since then, I haven't really looked back. I mean, then I kind of mixed my tech experience, my tech passion for technology with my business passion, which mixed with like talking. I love helping other business owners. That kind of started Everbee. I know it's maybe a very long explanation, but that's kind of the story.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I definitely want to dive into more about Everbee, like what it is, how it helps people. But
Totally.
it's so awesome to hear your story in terms of how you actually landed on Etsy last. And then you were like, wow, this is surprisingly the easiest and maybe best one out of all of these. Because a lot of the people that I work with, that's actually a similar path. They either have their own website, either Shopify or Squarespace or whatever it may be. And I'm like, let's get you back on Etsy. If you've never been on Etsy, let's go
Yeah.
on there. Or if you tried it and it didn't work, let's try again and let's take it with a little bit more strategy. Because like you said, once you know how to do it right, and you obviously had some great data and elevated your business to be able to be on Amazon and Walmart and your own website, that you
Mhm.
had like a lot of those foundations. But then once you have those foundations and you go on Etsy, it's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
I built this and now I know it's going to work. And Etsy is a great place to put your products. So can you tell me a little bit more about what type of products you sold when you were on all these different platforms? Like what were you
Gosh,
selling?
yeah. Primarily, it was like in the health and fitness type of that industry. It's primarily because I played college football and I was really, really into sports, and I was into like my health and all this good stuff. And plus, I always had this like overarching thing of like I don't want to just only make money. I also want to like help the world, right? So it's just
Yeah.
always this like, how do I align the two? How do I make money and also help people? And me coming from like a blue collar, like humble beginnings, we were programmed to believe that like you can't make money and also help the world at the same time for some reason. Like it had to be like you either make money or you're a good person, right? And it's like you can't do
Yeah.
either both. And so I had this like limiting belief. So health and wellness was like the primary thing like of my e-commerce career, coming from supplements to apparel, of course, because like health can easily be apparel. Um, Mixed with like foam rollers, half foam rollers, physical therapy products. My wife is also,
Nice.
she studied physical therapy. So like sold those on like multiple platforms. Etsy kind of did the similar thing, obviously being more handmade stuff. We had to like tinker with products and like personalize them and do all that, fun stuff. But that was our space. Um, when we were selling on Etsy, I think I kind of overlooked this. While I was selling on Etsy, Everbee wasn't even an idea yet. It was, I came from the Amazon world and Shopify world where there's like tools to help you like dive into data and really research stuff and like before you even launch products. When I came to Etsy, like there wasn't anything that I was really aware of. I kind of searched and I searched and I'm like, that doesn't really do it. I'm like trying to validate my products before I just go and waste my time or waste my money selling something. So I started kind of making my own like spreadsheet and like doing product research, which was like I would look at listings, I would put them on a spreadsheet, I would look at the reviews, I'd count up the reviews, I'd calculate a review ratio, and I'm like, okay, they probably did about this many sales, and then I would try to like, I had pretty much a list of like hundreds and hundreds of products at this point. And I always knew that software was like where my future calling was because
Mm.
I love like diving into the numbers and like I'm kind of like a little nerdy in that way. And so eventually it was like, oh, I think this thing is it. I think this is our software product that we actually want to bring to the world. And so that's kind of where it was. And of course, you never know with any business. You don't really know until it starts like getting more momentum. And then pretty soon it's like, oh yeah, this is your thing.
Yeah. I love hearing that story because it's you actually had some skin in the game with Etsy. Like you understand what it's like to be an Etsy seller. You understand what it takes
Yeah.
to be an Etsy seller, and then you took that, you took your learnings, you took your own like creation from that, and then created this awesome program that
Oh,
now helps
totally.
so many
Like kind of
Etsy
selfishly
sellers.
too. Like selfishly, like I was like
Yeah,
when I built Everbee, I'm like, I'm gonna be able to use this thing. And
yeah,
I'm gonna have an edge on the whole entire market, right? And that was the thing. And we did do really well on Etsy. Like we sold over I think $300,000 on Etsy like
nice.
in like 2 years. Which and that wasn't even like our primary thing. And it was fun. It still is fun. Like I love talking about it. I love it makes it really easy to be an Everbee because it's just like it's not work. It's not at all work.
Yeah, which is the best part, especially coming from like the corporate world where maybe, it did feel a little bit like work. There were some good days, some
Oh my
bad
gosh,
days,
yeah, like,
but
hey, you
when
have
you
to do this
actually,
presentation at 11 a.m. Like, you have to
right.
present. I'm like, yeah,
I love it. Okay, so let's dive into Everbee because maybe some people here aren't familiar with it. And like I
sure.
said, I've definitely dived in and played around with it and have seen some awesome features in terms of how you can look up products and see the projected amount of sales they're going to have, the number of units sold. You can see all
Mhm.
these great details. So tell me what are the main features, because I'm sure there's a ton, but what are the main reasons that people use Everbee and how do they use that information to better their Etsy shop, their products to make more money?
Yeah, totally. So I think the core of Everbee, just our beliefs are like, we believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to pursue their passions and like really live the life of their dreams on their terms. All right. So everything's kind of built around that. And then we do that with e-commerce. And we want to make e-commerce like kind of accessible for everyone throughout the world, no matter which country they are in. So simplified global e-commerce is kind of like our main mission, is just try to empower that aspiring entrepreneur, that growing entrepreneur to like do more of what they want, more of what they love. And how we do that is through our tools and through our features. Primarily, like the main thing that Everbee is known for is our product research suite, which is essentially it's finding the best products to sell on Etsy. When you first come to Etsy, you first come to any business, right? It's like, hey, what do I sell? It seems like everybody's making a bunch of money over here. Like, what should I sell? That's the first question that you should be asking yourself, actually, unless you really know what you want to do already, which is a small percentage. So that's what you would use product research, our product analytics feature, where you like it's a Chrome extension, and all you do is install the Chrome extension. You go to Etsy. Let's say you want to sell something for moms, right? You can just type in moms in the search bar and then click this little B over here, this little product analytics, and then click it. And then it's going to calculate a whole bunch of data for you super quickly on, hey, here are all the sales for every single one of these mom listings, right? And you're like, oh, look at this mom digital planner. Oh, the thing does like $2,000 a month in revenue. That's cool. I kind of like planners. I wonder if I can make a planner similar to this, right? And maybe like I can make it better by doing this. Or you say, oh, that's a mom's sweatshirt. Oh, that thing does like $17,000 a month in revenue. Like that's crazy. Like I can make that. And I can even make it better because I could do more better pictures. I could do a better description. I could package it nicer. I can maybe offer a kid's sweater next to it and do a mommy and me.
Yes.
Like you can kind of get creative, but you have to have the data first. My belief, like you have to know what the market wants, because otherwise we're being selfish. Like as a seller, it's very easy as a seller to just say, hey, I want to make $10,000 a month. Well, that's great, Sally, but like how is that serving the world? How are you serving a customer? Like what are you
Yes.
going to provide to the market in order to earn that? It's a great goal at first, but you have to give people something that's worth more than
Hmm.
10,000 in order for you to earn 10,000. And so that's what everybody's kind of built upon. So product research, product analytics is like the main thing. We have a keyword research tool as well. So it's one thing to understand what people are actually buying on Etsy. Another thing is actually understand what they're actually searching on Etsy. So the same extension, all you have to do is type in like mom, right? For example, Etsy will have a drop down of a bunch of keywords, right? Pre-populated keywords. Everbee will show a bunch of search volume numbers next to that word. Hey, mom is searched for 5,000 times per month on average. Hey, mom's shirt is searched for 3,000 times. Mom's necklace, love necklace, right? Mom's family necklace is searched for this time. That way you get a good understanding of what people are searching for on Etsy. Because if you can understand what they're searching for, and then you actually understand what they're buying, then you have a really good chance of actually giving the people what they're searching for and buying. you have to fill that need. And so, and then you could also understand which keyword you could actually have, what the competition is of each keyword as well, because that's also another
Mm.
thing to consider is, how many competitor listings are showing up for mom's shirt compared to the volume. And like you can really nerd out on this stuff if you wanted to go deeper and deeper, but the high level, it's helping you understand what you should be selling on Etsy.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the emphasis on data because I do feel like sometimes, especially with small business owners and creatives and entrepreneurs, sometimes we dive in without actually having that. And we just think, oh, if we come out with a product, then the sales will just magically come.
Yep.
And when you actually have a tool like this that will give you, number one, the confidence and the data behind what you're about to do, I mean, that puts you on a whole other level of coming in knowing that, hey, this is going to be successful versus kind of throwing a dart randomly with your eyes closed, hoping to hit
Right.
the middle of the dartboard, right?
I think you said it with the confidence thing. Confidence is so important, obviously, with everything we do, but certainly with like selling something online, it's because it makes you, if you're just throwing up a listing and you're just hoping and praying that it's going to sell, very likely you're not going to put a lot of effort into the packaging of the products, of the images, all this stuff, because you're just like, we'll see. But like, if you have the confidence of, no, this mom shirt that's very similar to mine, but mine's better in this way, if you have to understand that like that thing does $10,000 a month, you will be willing to invest way more of your effort, your resources, and your time into making that listing the best possible, because you're like the possibility, it's it's there, you see it clearly, and all you have to do is execute it really well. So I believe it just gives us an
Yeah.
advantage.
Dang, that's a really good point because I used to give this analogy of, I mean, and you said you come from a sport background, and I played sports in high school and I was a bench warmer, so I wasn't any good. But I'll give this analogy of imagine if there's like a basketball team who comes out on the court and they just have no belief in themselves. They're like, we're going to lose this game. It's not worth it. This team is so much better than us. They're not going to try their best. They're not going to try their hardest. They're probably going to lose the game. But if
Right.
you have a team that no matter maybe how much they've lost in the past, but they're like, listen, we can do this. It's possible. We've been practicing, we've been training, we've got the information that we need. Let's go. They're going to just play a totally different ball game and will probably be the one that ends up winning. So I love what you said of
Right.
not only does this tool give you data, but that data then gives you confidence so you can show up bigger with your business and bolder
Right.
and actually make those decisions. I love that. I've never thought of it from that standpoint, but I think that like the soft skill side of things or maybe like the underlying benefit of it, that's huge because then people can actually be like, yeah, this is credible. And like you said, they're going to put more into it, put more energy, time, effort, and that's required for it to actually grow, right? That is
Right.
needed. So when you have
Huge.
this data and confidence right off the start, well, that's going to take you on a whole different ball game, right?
Totally. It gives you belief too. It's like the belief is kind of the same thing. There's a lot of intertwined kind of thoughts, but it gives you belief that, wow, if I do this, it could be worthwhile, right? Look at the money, look at the
Yeah.
value that could actually be retrieving. Uh, that's inspiring. I mean, I remember like doing it on Amazon, doing product research, and I'd be like, go to my wife or go to my father-in-law or something like, look at this, like this product right here is doing this. Like, that's amazing, right? It's so cool. And it's just like invisible numbers that we didn't know existed, right? And then Everbee kind of we were bringing all those invisible numbers to light, like, oh wow, there's literally millions of dollars happening on this page. I'm looking at it right now, and this thing is generating millions of dollars. Like
Mm-hmm.
when people say like, oh, it's so saturated, there's not enough market for me, and then when you see those numbers, you're just like, oh my gosh, there is so much abundance out here, it's insane. And
Yeah.
if you think in like an abundance mindset, then there's no competition. Like just go and execute well, differentiate yourself and be unique, and then position yourself in a good place to capture some of that value. You're going to find a way to win. I just really believe
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I like that because I come from the same viewpoint too. You know, I'm a big fan of there's enough for everyone to be successful,
More
right?
than
And
enough.
there's enough for all of us to go around. Even like you and I collaborating on this podcast, some people would be like, no, 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 we're too similar in the topics that we talk about. But essentially, we serve the same audience, but in two totally different capacities. So there's more than enough for like us to
More
serve
than
people
enough.
and help people grow in multiple different conversations and multiple different avenues. So I love that you shared that viewpoint. And the other thing that I wanted to mention too, which is super interesting because I think a lot of people on Etsy, they're looking for maybe something that's never been done before. And they think I can
Right.
only be successful if it's never been done before. But I like your train of thought. Instead of maybe trying to do something that's never been done before, here's some actual data of what's working. and just use that as your inspiration instead of maybe trying to create an entirely different market or an entirely different category, which is going to be a lot of work to do that, versus, hey, what are your passions that align with stuff that's already selling, and let's put that
That's
out
right.
there, and let's speak to those people and serve those people, right?
That's right. I think it's a myth. I think that's a myth that we've all kind of grown up believing, probably because the movies kind of like celebrate like people inventing something from nothing, and it's like that's it, and that's all we see. It's that story. I just don't think it. I don't think that's truly real. I think it happens in like different capacities, but the majority of success is built on other people's success, right? We're all built on other
Hmm.
people's shoulders. We're like I'm Everbee is building on other people's shoulders. Every seller is building on someone else's. They should be building on someone else's like validation, their data. Like otherwise, you're being like so egotistical and honestly, I think it's so. I think that you're selling yourself really, really short if you think that you deserve to just invent something from nothing and just create a market out of nothing and everybody will come to buy it. I just think that's a
Hmm.
fallacy that I don't think exists. And
Yeah.
I think it's much better to think about, hey, let's take what people are already buying, what they're already liking, and let's improve this thing by 30% or even by 100%. If you could double the improvement, excellent, right? That's innovation. That
Hmm.
is inventing things when you improve something. Certainly not copying. That's not inventing things,
Yeah.
but every single company, there's a reason why we all do it. Every single Pepsi, Coke, McDonald's, Burger King, like they all understand this thing of, hey, improve, innovate through the improvements and the iterations, but don't just like go and invent. For example, Ford, for they don't just purely out of nowhere just invent something that the market doesn't have any validation through. I think the risk is
Hmm.
really, really high. Have they done it? Have they done it? Should companies do it once in a while? Yes, but I operate in the framework of like, hey, stick with like 80% doing what you think the market for sure will validate, and then if you want to be creative and like throw up some artwork that you have no validation, do it with 20% of your time. Do it with
Yeah.
20%. Be creative. We all need that. We need to invent. I agree, but don't bet the whole farm on it. If that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. And I think it's a good reframe too, because people do think, oh, it's saturated, oh, it's saturated. But what you're saying is, sure, it's saturated, but you can stand out, you can do it better, and that's your innovation, that's your competitive edge, that's how you stand out.
That's
And there's
right.
already a market for this. There's already people who like it. So how can you just make it better and put your spin on it and your brand story and your why behind it to
That's
elevate it
right.
and make it better? So I love that. 'Cause so many people are just having a conversation with someone saying like that Etsy is just too saturated and they're struggling. And it's like, okay, well, this is gonna be a great episode for them to listen to on number one, let's use this tool and see what data shows up. Let's use Everbee and use that to our advantage. But also, what are you doing once you have that validation to actually stand out and make it even better for the customer? So I love
Totally.
that
Like
viewpoint that you shared.
there's a huge, huge need for the creation, like the creative mindset. Like after Everbee is done, like after you use Everbee's data, like that's where you put the creative hat on again and say, how do I separate myself from all of these? These are doing great. How do I
Mm-hmm.
keep the core of what the people are buying and make it better? How do I make it 40% better, 10% better, different, whatever it is, unique? That's where you come in. Probably that's where you specialize, Monica, right? Is like
Yeah.
separating all those like psychology things, and that's where the fun begins. I think that's where the magic happens too.
Yeah, beautiful. And I know from my experience when I was playing around in Everbee, I mean, how I really loved it. And I would love to hear from your point of view, who is this for? Like, what I know you gave some examples at the beginning of who this tool is for, but how I was personally using it is I was imagining, like, hey, imagine I'm a greeting card creator or a print on
Mm,
demand creator. Let me go on Etsy and see what type of wedding invitations are kind of
right.
trending now. What is Everbee showing me that, hey, this retro style wedding card is actually going off the charts? Okay, cool. Let me see how I can create something retro with my vibe. I know how to make stuff like this. Let me put my flair on it. But now I have some proof here that retro greeting cards are doing well. So, from my perspective, and I would love to hear yours, I see this as a very great tool for all Etsy sellers, but I see a big gap for people who do print on demand, for people who do printable products, that they can use this instead of just coming out with any random sweatshirt that has
Mm.
any random saying, to actually research what's doing good, what are people buying, what does the market want. So I'd love to hear your perspective, from like handmade sellers, print on demand, printables, digital downloads. I'm who is this for, or do you
Yeah.
have any specifics in like in what case it would be beneficial for any of those types of sellers?
Gosh, yeah, you nailed it. I mean, we built this to be for Etsy sellers as a whole, and that's kind of like a you serve everybody, you serve nobody kind of thing. We were a little bit concerned about that at first, but it's really truly been the case. We look at the types of users that we have inside Everbee, which we have a community of over 200,000 sellers using Everbee every day, and so we're so blessed to see so many different types of people using our products, so many different types of shops that are crushing it using us, coming from the digital downloads, right? The handmade seller making soaps and making candles handmade, and then you have the print on demand sellers who are selling apparel and sweatshirts and hats and beanies and all this stuff too. We truly do serve all of them because all of them have the same core problems of understanding their niche and understanding which products they should be launching next, understanding which keywords they should be putting inside of their listings, title, tags, and description. They all have the same problem, and they should all be using data to solve all those problems, at least as a big focal point, right? They need to be using data at some capacity for those things to succeed. But we have handmade sellers doing over $50,000, $60,000 a month in revenue on Etsy,
Nice.
and they're Everbee users. We have apparel people selling sweatshirts that I can think of right now, top of my head. I won't mention their shop name, but they do over 200,000 a month selling
Wow.
shirts and stuff like that. And when you would look at them, I would look at them and say, "Oh wow, like, man, they don't look that special." Like they don't seem like they're doing anything that crazy. And I know they're print on demand, and it's so inspiring to see so much abundance. It's a very unique position that I'm very grateful for, to just see so much money flowing through, and it's not causing anyone else to lose. It's the coolest thing.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Well, I love how you said the product research, using that tool, the keyword research. I think that's
Yeah,
awesome. So, product research, is that more so for like, okay, what am I launching? What products are selling? Let me see what's going on Etsy. Keyword research is then what do I use for my titles and tags, right? And then you said competitors. So, is that how do I find keywords that are less saturated, that have more opportunity? Can you just give me a little bit more on
yeah,
like the
that would probably be in our
competition?
that would be kind of like our keyword research tool. We would show the keyword search, for example, like let's say you type in mom shirt again, and you see a bunch of keywords that are similar to mom shirt or mom shirt. You're gonna see a bunch of their search volume, and then next to it, you'll see a bunch of their competition, like every single keyword's
Nice.
competition level. And then we also have this thing called, I think we call it the keyword. Gosh, I'm forgetting literally the word that we use, but it's our ratio, right, between the two, the competition to the search volume. And we go, keyword score. Sorry. So our keyword score, and the higher the score is usually the higher the opportunity is compared to the competition to the search volume. So this is for like the nerdy folks, right? To how to really kind of find those like interesting niches that nobody's really tapping into.
Yes.
For example, if something's getting like 1,000 searches a month, but the competition is only like 200, there's an opportunity there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's that. I didn't mention like some of the other features because we're building so much stuff right now. But one thing that is free for anybody to use, and I think every single seller should be using it, is our Etsy fee calculator. Just
Cool.
because I think me and you talked this a little bit, unit economics, understanding how much profit you actually make on your sale or on your product is the most important thing. It's like the foundation of our business. If you're losing $2 on every sale, you're not gonna have a business in 3 months. You're gonna give up, or you're gonna run out of money. And using the Etsy fee calculator to kind of put in your revenue, put in your shipping costs, put in your actual cost of the product. If you have labor, you put it in there, all this fun stuff. And then it also calculates in the Etsy fees, of course, and it also calculates in there. You could also put in your advertising costs if you want, and all this stuff. Point is, it'll give you like an actual profit, right? And then your profit margin percentage too. So you can kind of understand, okay, like this product is making money, so all I need to do is sell this many products of this product and this many units of that product to hit my goals. Of course, like we go into the trademark monitor, and this is for like the more advanced sellers, I would say. And this is for the folks that are doing a lot of volume, and they're like, let's say they're doing $10,000 a month in their Etsy shop, and they understand that, hey, if I get slapped with one trademark infringement on accident, I'm
Mm,
putting my entire shop at risk. And like I live off my Etsy income, so like I really can't put my shop at risk.
Yeah.
So we built a trademark monitor to help with this. It's in beta right now, but it's available for everybody. And this is to automatically monitor all of your listings for you and to make sure the seller is aware of like, hey, by the way, you just listed this listing and this phrase that you put in this listing is trademarked.
Hmm.
And then you can decide if you want to remove that trademark or you just want to risk it and you're like, all good.
Yeah.
Most people that have a lot of volume, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month, like they live off that income. So they're not willing to put their shop at risk over one listing. So they actually want to be flagged on that trademark just so they don't risk a suspension.
Right. Oh my gosh, I love it. I was just talking to someone where that happened. I think they use a term rainbow silk or something like that, which is just describing their product, but it was actually trademarked and that listing got taken down. So I love that you guys have that just to be like, okay, let's see what's trademarked. Let's see what we could potentially get dinged for.
That's right.
So we can make a decision on it.
At
Love
least be
it.
aware of it,
So
right? At least
awesome.
be aware of like the stuff that you're doing, because most of the time we don't even know. We just throw in a title, throw in tags and description, and like we just, oh well, But no, it can catch up, and
Yeah.
I don't like to play on this like the play in the fear mode all the time, right? But when you start doing revenue, like you need to be doing your due diligence and protecting your shop and protecting
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
revenue. So that's important. Yeah, so that's that. I mean, we're building other stuff as we speak. So more to come there, but overall, like it's all geared towards helping Etsy sellers grow their shop.
I love it. I love it so much. And I know you mentioned this earlier too, but just to echo, I love how user friendly it is. From literally, you can install it on Chrome. And then when you're on Etsy searching for listings, you can press the little button and then these insights come to you: revenue, sales, units, all that stuff. So super user friendly. I think everyone listening here should definitely check it out and see what it's about and keep elevating their Etsy shop with the awesome data that you are sharing with people. So I just want to end with you sharing how can people learn more about you, your podcast, Everbee, where do they go? Any final words that you want to share?
Gosh,
Please
yeah.
tell us all
So
the things.
okay, yeah. So we have a podcast called the Etsy Seller Podcast, which is geared towards interviewing successful or just getting started Etsy sellers, some sort of like Etsy seller conversations. The whole goal of that podcast was because we recognize that the majority of Etsy sellers are first time, second time entrepreneurs. They don't have a lot of entrepreneurs in their family, especially not talking about Etsy in their circle. And they're not talking about unit economics. They're not talking about supply chain. They're not talking about positioning of their products online and like how much revenue I did last month. Like they're not talking about those things. So the whole goal with that podcast is to let people be a fly on the wall with those conversations. And because we believe that we're a product of our environment, right? And if that podcast is a part of your environment, then you're naturally just going to grow just from being there, not only financially but also mentally, emotionally, because we talk about mindset and we talk about challenges and failures and becoming successful and all those things. So the Etsy Seller podcast is there. But I would say to get plugged in, it's easiest thing to do is just go to everbee.io, sign up for a free account. It's free forever, right? We have a free plan. At least you'll get plugged into the Everbee Facebook community. We'll have that stuff. That's all free. It's private, but it's free. The podcast, all that stuff, you'll kind of just be ingrained inside of the community after you join. And I guess my thoughts are for anyone listening, if depending on where you are in your journey, just like if you're just getting started, just keep going. Just don't give up, because there'll be so many times where you're going to want to give up and you're going to feel like it's probably not worth it. And all those like negative loneliness type of feelings that will creep in. It's not going to be easy, and no one promises that it's going to be easy, but I truly believe that it's worth it. And if we truly believe that it's worth it, then why would you even consider giving up, right? It's like, just keep going. And I believe that you will be very grateful and very happy that you did.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cody, for your wisdom, your insights, for sharing about Everbee. I'll make sure to link everything in the show notes so people can run on over and check out the tools and the podcast and the Facebook group that you offer. So thank you so much. So grateful for this conversation. And thank you for
Thank you so
hopping on the
much,
show.
Monica. You're amazing. Yeah, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.